Right. Okay, welcome everyone to the pre-hearing conference for Pepco rate case number 9472. This is regarding the application of the Potomac Electric Power Company for adjustments to its retail rates for the distribution of electric energy in the amount of $41,439,000. Why don't we begin, as we always do in pre-hearing conferences, by taking appearances. We'll start with our commission staff counsel, Mr. Spivak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon for the third time. Lloyd Spivak for the commission staff. I'd also like to enter the appearances of Annette Garofalo, Peter Wilson, and Leslie Romine.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commission. Molly Knoll on behalf of the Maryland Office of People's Counsel. I'd also like to enter the appearances of Jacob Auslander, Anna Ryan, and Gary Alexander.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Your Honor. Exetrel K. Caldwell on behalf of the Apartment and Office Building Association of Metropolitan Washington. With Your Honor's permission, I'd also like to enter the appearances of Fran Francis, Fran G. Francis, and Nicola Williamson. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is William Rappold. I represent HCNCA, the Healthcare Council of the National Capital Area. I'm with the firm Andrews, Kurth, Kenyon, and with your permission, I'd like to enter the appearance of my counsel. Mark Sunback, Ken Wiseman, and Andrew Mina.
All right, thank you. Good
Hello,
afternoon.
Douglas E. Mike Keel. I'm here on behalf of Potomac Electric Power Company. I'd like to enter the appearance of Kim F. Hassan and Matthew K. Seegers also.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. Lisa Brennan on behalf of Montgomery County, Maryland, and I'd also like to enter the appearance of Jim Ogorzalek.
Very good.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to enter an appearance today? Okay, if not, why don't we go to our petitions to intervene? And we have received petitions from United States General Services Administration, the City of Gaithersburg, Montgomery County, AOBA, the Healthcare Council of the National Capital Area. Any other petitions to intervene we're not aware of? Okay, hearing none. Any objections?
No objections, Your Honor.
Those petitions are granted. Why don't we go next to our procedural schedule, and I want to thank our commission staff for working on that for us, and why don't we walk through it.
All right. First off, I would like to actually thank all the parties, particularly Pepco, who initiated the process, for their cooperation in arriving at the schedule. It starts, the filing date was January 2nd. The petitions to intervene are already done. The tax reform proposal is the first item on the schedule that has not happened. Pepco expects to file by February 9th. Okay. Next item is the update to actuals. As you're aware, Pepco has a partially forecast test year. They need to update to actuals, and the date for that is March 8th. Staff, OPC, and other interveners are to file testimony on April 13th. That would be their direct testimony. Rebuttal testimony for all parties would be May 11th. Rebuttal testimony for all parties would be May 29th. Staff would file its comparison chart of parties' position on June 1st, being aware that that would be updated at the end of the case to take into account any changes in position that occur before the end of the hearing. The hearing dates were provided by the Commission of June 4th through the 13th, and the brief the Commission allowed would be June 29th, and the decision would be the statutory due date of July 31st, 2018.
Okay, let's talk about the brief, which is proposed for the 29th. I think our Office of General Counsel needs a little more time, especially since that's close to the July 4th holidays. So I'd like to propose that we move that back to June 27th, which would be Wednesday. Cuts off a couple days, I know, but I think 2 days would be a big help to our General Counsel's office. Any Any concerns? Can parties live with it?
I'm just a little concerned. It is 2 weeks to write a fairly lengthy brief, and an intense brief. Our preference certainly is to leave it at the 29th, but if we have to do the 27th, that's what we'll do.
We might also be tight on having the transcripts in that amount of time.
How about the company?
Well, you know, if we're only going to the one brief format, that means we have to do a lot in the first brief and anticipate almost every argument. We can live with the 27th. I mean, the 28th would be better because that's a solid 2 weeks, but we'll.
Well, the 28th is, I mean, the problem with the 29th is, you know, it doesn't come in until 5 o'clock, which means we really don't get it till Monday morning. So we do the end of the day 28th at least, and then we'll have it Friday morning, and that will give. I'm sure our general counsel has nothing better to do on a beautiful weekend in the end of June. So.
Not to mention we're supposed to read these things.
Yes, as well as the commissioners. All right, we will make the 28th.
Your Honor, I would, pursuant to that schedule, like to make I guess it's now becoming an annual pitch for a reply brief. I think a reply brief would be an appropriate thing to do, and I would ask that we be allowed to file a reply brief on July 13th. You know, I think those help clarify the issues. I know the Commission has told us one brief, but I just think, or in the alternative, I would at least like the Commission to allow us leave to request a reply brief if there are arguments brought up in briefs that are brought up for the first time in a brief. I think it's only appropriate that we get an opportunity to reply.
Well, let's hear from other parties on the reply brief. See, Ms. Knoll, and then Mr. Speaker. I'd like to hear from Ms. Knoll first.
OPC would support the request for a reply brief. I'm always hesitant at this stage of litigation to give up on that opportunity. We could get to the hearing and decide that, yes, this is very straightforward, nothing crazy's come up, it's not strictly necessary, but giving it up now means we don't have that option easily later on.
As far as staff is concerned, we've never really found reply briefs to be terribly useful, so we're fine with a single brief.
All right. Well, staff can, I mean, I guess you don't have to file, if they're not useful, you don't have to file a reply brief.
No, and there's always the possibility that somebody may say something that's really out there, and you kind of wish that you might want the opportunity to reply to something like that, but honestly, I do trust my fellow counsel at the table here to keep their what they say within the reasonable limits of the case.
Okay. How about anyone else want to speak on reply briefs?
Your Honor, it supports the Commission's preference for a single brief. You know, I would defer or would be willing to, if something new was raised, that a party would have the right to come to the Commission and said, we never had the opportunity to address this, and we'd ask for a short reply brief. But, you know, absent that, I think a single set of briefs, as the Commission has indicated, given the length of these proceedings and given the short time frame with which you have to issue a decision, is probably the most efficient way to proceed.
HCNCA also supports a single brief for the same reasons that AOBA stated, and I won't repeat them. And just to be clear, if reply briefs are allowed for PEPCO, obviously we would like to have a chance to have a reply brief as well.
That's fair.
Right, I meant for all parties, not just for us. Although if the parties didn't want to file one, we're happy for that too.
Montgomery County obviously will defer to whatever the Commission decides, but we as Ms. Knoll has said, we think it's useful to have that at least scheduled if something does come up that we feel the need to reply to. Certainly we don't, if we don't feel there's anything to reply to, then we certainly wouldn't file it, but at least if it's on the calendar, then we have that opportunity.
Okay, very good. All right, let me poll my fellow commissioners. I'm actually open to a reply brief. We have potentially two very unique issues in this case. One being the kind of the post-test year reliability proposal. The other, essentially the tax issue, which we may be dealing with in this case. Any concerns? Any support for a reply brief?
My natural tendency, Mr. Chairman, is to support the environment and saving the trees, but I'm willing to entertain the idea of a reply brief. I'm okay.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Herb.
I think a reply brief could be helpful in this case.
Any concerns?
Yeah,
All right,
like
very
the
good. Why don't
majority
we
party
will
wanted it, so.
we will go ahead and allow a reply brief. Let's make it due, Mr. McKeel and others, at noontime. On the 13th, that way, because that's Friday.
Thank you.
All right, very good.
I had just a couple other matters. I'm sorry.
Let's bring them up.
I provided a copy of the notice consistent with your order 88521 of this pre-hearing conference, and I'd ask that it be marked as PEPCO Exhibit 1 at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, we will mark this as PEPCO 1 and without objection, it is admitted.
If I may, just want to make sure that we will get live rejoinder limited to the issues raised in the sir rebuttal testimony. I mean, that's consistent with what we've done in the past. And I want to make sure with the commission that they're still desirous of the local public hearings in Montgomery County and Prince George's County. I can work with Mr. Collins on that, and if the commission was okay with the locations of the last ones, we can start that if we just get the dates for those local public hearings.
All right, and very good. I think both those locations work well. We'll just ask that as you work with Mr. Collins, we will want to have those before the evidentiary hearings.
Yes, sir.
Great. All right.
That's all I
anything else?
have.
All right,
No.
Very good. Ms. Knoll.
Your Honor, I just want to raise, I believe it's been raised for parties, but just so the Commission is aware, our revenue requirements expert, Mr. Efron, won't be available after June 8th, so we'll likely have to take him out of order during the evidentiary hearings.
We're happy to accommodate
Okay.
that.
All right, thanks for the heads up on that.
Thank you.
Ms. Brennan.
Along with the Save the Trees desire of Commissioner O'Donnell, I just wanted to know if all the filings were going to be electronic as well as the discovery. I think that's been mentioned in previous orders, but I just wasn't sure. Do we want paper? I know the Commission will want paper,
Right.
but for parties, service on parties, is electronic sufficient?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No, but I meant, right, but in previous cases, sometimes you send it electronically, but then you also follow up with a written discovery back and forth among the parties, and there's a lot of paper on our end, too.
We'll take it electronically, and we do have an electronic discovery hub already set up and working. We've already answered a few sets of data requests.
For the most part, electronic discovery is fine, but there may be occasions in the course of discovery where we think we need something on paper, and so I would like to reserve the right at least to request something on paper and expect to get it. But I don't think we'll be doing much of that.
Sure.
We'll accommodate all those requests.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the parties? Okay, if not, I think the only thing left on my list is just once again state that any discovery disputes should be brought to the Commission promptly, and we will resolve them. Discovery has already commenced with staff and OPC, and it will begin immediately for all the interveners who have been approved today. So, okay, anything else for the good of the order? If not, thanks everyone for coming. Sorry for the delay in our meeting time this afternoon. We appreciate your patience on that. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.